You ever think about how much we trust big names? Like you see Volkswagen, you think, well, they're huge. They wouldn't do anything shady, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when that trust is, well, tested, when the fine print isn't so fine anymore? That's what we're diving into today, a real David versus Goliath story.
A group of everyday Volkswagen customers in Argentina took on the auto giant, and this court's ruling, it has major implications for all of us, no matter where we are in the world.
We're looking at a case centered around car savings plans, and those can be, well, pretty complex if you're not familiar with them. Luckily, we have our expert here to kind of break it down for us. So what's really interesting about this case is it exposes the power imbalance. It's kind of baked into these types of financial products. You've got Volkswagen playing a dual role here. They're the administrator managing the plan, and the manufacturer setting the car's price.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you have the consumer trying to navigate this whole system, often with, not a lot of financial knowledge.
Right. It's like walking into a maze blindfolded, and the person who designed the maze hands you a compass that might be broken. And this case really hinges on one particularly confusing aspect of these plans. There's this little section on payment coupons called débitos créditos, which translates to debits credits. So imagine this. You've been making payments diligently on your dream car for years. You think you're almost there, just a final payment or two left. Suddenly, bam, you get hit with a statement demanding a hefty additional payment, a balance due that seems to have just appeared out of nowhere.
Frustrating, right?
Incredibly frustrating. And this is exactly what happened to our plaintiffs in this case. They were nearing the end of their Volkswagen savings plans, all ready to finally drive off in their new cars. They made like 83 payments, like clockwork, trusting that everything was on track. Then wham, these demands for extra money land on their doorsteps. And to make matters worse, the explanations they got were anything but clear. Volkswagen said, oh, it's because of these court orders and changes in regulations that are affecting the savings plans. So that's the reason for these surprise charges.
Right, but the customers are saying, hold on a minute.
Exactly. And the plaintiffs, they weren't being unreasonable. They weren't demanding to have the entire savings plan rewritten. All they wanted was a transparent, itemized breakdown of how that final balance due was calculated. They wanted to understand that mysterious debits credits section. They wanted to see how those external factors Volkswagen was citing actually impacted their individual payments.
Basically, they wanted the maze illuminated.
Yes. Now, Volkswagen's defense, they argued they were complying with these court orders, with the regulations. They insisted that they provided as much information as they could under the circumstances. They even offered to have an independent expert accountant review the calculations. Seems reasonable, right?
Seems like it.
But, and this is a big but, they failed to provide this expert with the detailed information needed to actually perform a review. It's like offering someone a flashlight to navigate that maze, but you hand them the flashlight with the batteries taken out.
Right. Not very helpful.
So did the court buy Volkswagen's defense? We'll tell you what the judges decided right after the break. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we left off with Volkswagen facing a courtroom showdown, right?
Right.
Would the judges side with the company, or with the everyday consumers demanding that transparency?
Yeah, it was a big moment, yeah.
It's huge. So the court's decision, it was a resounding victory for the plaintiffs. They ruled in favor of Monica Aguilo and the other Volkswagen customers, ordering the auto giant to provide that detailed breakdown of the final balance due, shine a light on every nook and cranny of those debitos creditos sections. Yeah. And this wasn't just about getting some numbers on paper. The court recognized there's a fundamental power dynamic at play here, right?
Absolutely.
On one side, you have Volkswagen, this multinational corporation with tons of resources, legal teams. On the other side, you have these individual consumers just trying to understand the terms of a financial agreement.
Yeah, trying to make sense of it all.
Right. And the court basically said, Volkswagen, you can't just hide behind all this complexity. You have a responsibility to be upfront, transparent with your customers, especially when there's such a big gap in power and knowledge.
Right. Level the playing field a bit.
Exactly. And it wasn't just a slap on the wrist either. Remember Volkswagen's argument that they were compliant because they offered that independent review?
Right.
But then didn't provide the information?
Yeah.
The court saw right through that. They called out Volkswagen's actions, stating that, offering a review without the actual means of conducting it, just not good enough.
Right. An empty gesture.
Totally. But here's where it gets really interesting. The court didn't stop at just demanding this transparency. They also awarded each plaintiff what's known as moral damages.
Oh, interesting.
Now, you might be wondering, what are moral damages? It's not about like a physical injury or anything like that. It's about the emotional toll that this whole situation took on the plaintiffs.
Right, the stress of it all.
Exactly. Imagine the stress, the anxiety, the feeling of being misled by this company you trusted. The court recognized that this kind of corporate behavior, it has real human consequences.
Yeah.
And those consequences deserve to be acknowledged.
I do.
It gets even more impactful.
Yeah.
The court, they didn't want this to be a one-time lesson for Volkswagen.
Right.
They also imposed something called punitive damages,
Okay.
which is basically a big fine meant to deter future misconduct.
Okay.
Think of it like this. If you get a speeding ticket and it doesn't stop you from speeding, maybe a much, much larger fine would make you think twice.
Right. Hit them where it hurts.
Exactly. That's the idea with punitive damages, to hit a company where it hurts, their bottom line,
No.
and to really encourage them and the whole industry to put ethical, transparent practices first.
Yeah, to make it more than just words.
Exactly. So what does all of this mean for you, the listener? This case might have played out in Argentina,
Yeah.
but its ripples, they're being felt all over the world.
Yeah.
It sets a powerful precedent for consumer rights. It reminds us that we all have a right to clear, understandable information when it comes to these financial agreements, no matter how complicated they are. And it really begs the question, could something similar happen in other countries? What are the consumer protection laws like where you are? We'll be back after a quick break to unpack these questions and discuss what you can do to protect yourself. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know, as we've explored this Volkswagen case, it really hits home that this story, it goes way beyond borders.
It does.
This isn't just about car savings plans in Argentina. It's about this, well, global shift in how we see consumer rights, especially in an age of like these really complex financial products.
Yeah, that are getting more and more common.
Right. And how important it is that we all have clear, accessible information, fair treatment.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter where we live, what we're buying.
Exactly.
And the court's decision to award both moral and punitive damages, that really drives the point home.
It does, yeah.
For long-time companies, they might have thought, okay, if we mess up, we'll just refund the money and it's over.
Right.
But this case is saying, no. It's not just about the money.
It's about the principle.
It is. The emotional toll on consumers, that matters. The message being sent to other companies, that matters. It's about changing the way corporations behave for the better.
Yeah, holding them accountable.
And what I think is really inspiring is that this wasn't, some huge legal battle fought by, high-powered lawyers.
Right.
This was everyday people who just stood up and said, enough. Enough is enough.
Yeah, and they won.
And they won. It's a huge reminder that we all have a voice and that we can actually make a difference.
Absolutely. One voice can spark a movement.
So true. This case shows that even going up against a giant like Volkswagen, you can hold these corporations accountable. And it really highlights something so crucial. Knowledge is power.
It really is.
The more informed we are as consumers, the less vulnerable we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Knowledge is your best defense.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a few practical steps you can take, to protect yourself. Because look, this ruling, it's a huge win. But we can't just rely on the courts to make sure things are fair.
That's right. Take control.
So first, arm yourself with information. Read the fine print, no matter how much it makes you want to just close your eyes and sign.
Read every word, every single one.
Even that tiny print at the bottom.
Especially that.
If something isn't clear, ask questions. Don't be afraid to say, I don't understand this. Can you explain that in plain English?
Exactly. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Exactly. And if you hit a wall, don't give up. There are always resources to help.
Oh, yeah.
Consumer protection agencies, financial advisors, legal aid organizations.
They're there to help.
They're there to help. You don't have to go through this alone.
You're not alone.
So this case, from Córdoba, Argentina, it might seem a world away, but it's a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in demanding transparency and fairness and respect from the marketplace.
We all deserve that.
We do. So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring those fascinating corners of the world, one deep dive at a time.